All right, welcome back. This is episode 1. Episode 1. We're getting into the nitty-gritty, and I'm starting off with a really, really cool topic. If you're listening, thank you for listening. If you're on YouTube, thank you for watching. This is called Tales of a Middle Responder because we aren't first, we ain't last, but we're somewhere in the middle. My name is Lex, and I'm a real CSI, and I'm going to be dishing out truths, giving you full education, and just talking about forensics and being nerdy about it. I hope you guys are ready, and we're going to dive right in. Disclaimer for this show and every show and anything that I do, and I should probably write this disclaimer down to nail it. I'm going to take it off the top of my head for this one. Before the Crypt and Tales of a Middle Responder are not affiliated with any agency, organization, or group that I may be representative or a part of. This show and feelings are of my own opinion. No casework, no references to active cases, nothing that would impede the court of law would be discussed on this podcast. If there is a discrepancy issue, please feel free to reach out to me. My work is more important than a podcast or a YouTube video, and I would want to make sure that that's correct for the cases that I work and for the things that I do, but I'm not affiliated with anybody. It is just me. Those are my disclaimers. Let's do this. So I asked on my Instagram about what are your icks. If you're not up with new words and new slang, when you say something's an ick, icky, ick, you're saying like, ugh, I can't stand it. That's just something that I don't like. So when we're talking about icks and forensics, there's quite a lot. I asked an array of different questions, and I got icks for true crime media, and I got some icks for crime scene work. So we're going to go into least controversial to most controversial. Mind you, these are all suggestions. These aren't exactly things that I feel are reflective. I speak on them because I do agree with them, but these have all been suggested, so they're not, if anyone feels they're a little bit specific, that is not me. I took them from my Instagram questions and comments, and I have them right here as proof. You can't see if you're listening on the podcast, but I have a notepad full of ideas. So we're going to get into it. So when we're talking about icks, these are media icks, workplace icks, just things that we're not quite keen on. And I am a big proprietor about ethical true crime and proper ways to represent true crime in media. I think it's great that people are exposed to it, and I think it's great that there's such a big interest in it. However, it needs to be done the right way. And when we have exploiting headlines and YouTube clickbait, that's not how we do it, and that's not how it should be done. The type of work we do in crime scene is sacred. And I know every individual, detectives, latent print examiners, CSIs, MEs, death investigators, anybody who has their hands in on this case or any case that's a true crime story, it's affected them in some way, whether it's emotionally, whether it was with time at the moment when that scene occurred. So you have to think, to see these victims that we serve being exploited, and to see these faces of these killers, these faces of these abusers being pushed before our victims' faces, it's just very, to me, disrespectful. And I'm not afraid to say that because I'm all about my cases. I'm all about the people that I serve, and that's the root of crime scene work. So when we're looking at true crime media, the true crime media I consume is very, very selective. I'll have a whole podcast about proper true crime media and stuff, but when, like right now, they've been my favorite. They're called The Misery Machine, and they are fantastic in telling ethical true crime and stories that actually reflect the affected and the victims. And I hate always saying the word victims because the victims aren't only the decedents or the people that are individually harmed, but also the families and those affected. So I used to be all in. I used to be like, yeah, I love true crime. Yeah, give me all the blood. Give me all the gore. But it just starts coming off a little insensitive. And I'm not going to lie. I got gallows humor. I get it. I can't lie and say that I haven't made jokes or found ways of coping through the type of things that I've dealt with and seen. And you would be lying if you're not nodding your head like right now and saying, yeah, me too. However, the integrity of our cases is utmost. And I would never disrespect our families. And I can't imagine going on, even if you're not affiliated with that case and you're just someone who's curious and glamorizing. And this is something we'll talk about with serial killers. Just because the serial killers are popular doesn't mean that it's still okay to glamorize them. Because guess what? There's still victims out there. Crazy, right? When crime happens, it affects not one, not two, but a network of people. And when you're indulging in true crime media improperly, you're indulging and capitalizing off of the sorrow and grief that people feel. Everyone involved, from the investigators to the families to the relatives that are living on. I understand the intrigue with trying to understand these serial killers and what made their mind work, what made them snap. But let's be real. I don't think it's worth the expense of the families, and I definitely don't think it's worth being considered an ick. We're starting with true crime media for the Icks. Shout out 4A for my notepad, by the way. They always have good conference swag. So we're going to start with the Icks, and I'm going to look down at my notepad if you're watching this visually, because in no way I can tell you off the top of my head, and I'm not going to do that many cut edits, right? I'm having a conversation. I have it written down. I can't remember everything. If you didn't write it down, is it really something? If you didn't document it, did it happen? You get my vibe? So, ick number 1, true crime media. Inaccuracies and lack of research. Ooh, Nelly. Yeah, this is a big one. And this is what makes CSIs have the ick, or I shouldn't just say CSIs, more something that's more inclusive term, forensic professionals, right? Because it's not just CSIs that watch this. If I say CSIs, it's because I'm a CSI, okay? I'm sorry. I'm used to speaking to my peoples. But when we see research, when we're seeing different things come back in record time, we can discern it because we know it's not the truth, and we laugh about it like, oh, I wish that happened. I'd close that case so much faster if the DNA came back that way, if the research came back that way. And I think the biggest issue here is a lot of forensic professionals feel like this is a mockery, and it's showing improper practices because that sticks with people. The CSI effect, whether some believe there's not more information and research, it's there. You can't deny that you're not influenced by crime shows, or if you see processing done in a crime show, if you have nothing to help you understand that that's not the way we do it in the field, how do you know that's not how we do it in the field? I don't fault people for falling under the CSI effect or falling under that impression or that umbrella. So the lack of research can be very frustrating. It could be ick for me. It definitely is an ick for many. And just the inaccuracies, seeing things being portrayed improperly. And we'll get into some of those specifics in a couple of these suggestions. Next one is false portrayals. Kind of along the same lines. When you have one investigator doing everything. Now, I'll tell you, there are some really kick-butt people. And remember, this is going to be a very non-expletive podcast. I almost said it because, I mean, there's no other proper term. You know what I mean. When you have individuals that are just go-getters and they want to do it all, it's great. But realistically, we can't do it all. You can't be a CSI and a scientist and a medical examiner. You can't do it. You have to pick one. And it's not because you can't. It's because there are delegations. And I like being able to say that my job is crime scene, and that's it. I don't want to be in charge of the decedent. I don't want to be interviewing people. I don't want to be doing X, Y, and Z. So for me, I'm okay with my role. I'm happy with my role. Because in my role, there's so many responsibilities that I need to focus on. There's no way I will exceed if I am a detective and the medical examiner and the scientist running the data. There's no way. And the issue is just false portrayals. You have individuals going on scenes in Hummers. We always make the joke, especially ladies in forensics, about the high heels. My dirty black Bates boots I've seen enough. But my heels will never touch the pavement at a crime scene. And it's just improper. At least put some booties on if you got some heels. You know what I mean? But you see all these inaccuracies. Like, they walk into a scene that has bloody shoe prints and they don't even have booties on. They don't have hairnets on. Bio all over the walls. You don't have a Tyvek on? I get it, it's hot, but you don't have a Tyvek on? Ew. I just can't deal with that. That is what makes my skin crawl. Is seeing these individuals looking pristine. If you're watching YouTube, you see my face is done up. This would never happen at work. I don't even have an inch of makeup on my face. There's no way. 1, contaminant. 2, I'm sweating. Crime scene, and I speak on crime scene because I'm a CSI, that is where the work is. That is where we are carving bullets out of walls. We are going through coagulated blood looking for projectiles. We are doing everything we can and then some. I am not wearing makeup, nor am I having my hair down, and nor am I trying to look like I'm the next movie star and I'm getting an Emmy. I wish, but that's not what's happening here, right? So, going on to my next one, kind of alluded to it, it's glorifying killers. This, in my tier, my ranking of what really gives me the ick, that I can gag at the thought of, is serial killer merchandise. No. I'm sorry. That's where I draw my line. If you are so enticed to plaster a mugshot of Ted Bundy on your shirt, keychains, I love serial killers, you know what? Have a nice day. I think what bothers me the most about the glorifying of serial killers is kind of what I alluded to before. It's not focusing on the victims and the individuals that they've affected. If I'm listening to true crime media, I want to know about the evidence that put these individuals away. I don't care about their life. I'm going to say it. I don't care if they were a troubled child. I don't care of what went on. I don't want to hear dirty details about the victim's life, and yet hear that the suspect was a sweet boy turned bad. I don't want to hear it anymore. And maybe that's just because of what I've dealt with and seen, the faces that I've seen. I don't want to hear it. And I'm totally allowed to say that. That's how much it gives me the ick. I don't care. Because at the end of the day, you chose to take someone's life. And these serial killers are brutal. This is not your typical drive-by. This is mutilation, strangulation, beatings. I can't even think about promoting something like that. So to wear that on your shirt, to embrace that, and I think a lot of it, what it is an identity crisis. People are so into these edgier things. They think it's cool, and a shock factor. Oh, I love serial killers. Oh, look at me, my Ted Bundy shirt. And I'm sorry if you are in forensics and this is you. I have nothing on you. But I just ask you to consider, how would your victims feel if their killer was on your shirt? We've had some crazy homicides. Would you put your suspect on that shirt? Would you put them on pajama pants? No. And I don't think just because there's a time lapse in when these killings occurred, is that appropriate to do. Now, I'm all for the psychology of serial killers. That is a very interesting topic. But don't put them on a shirt. Don't do that. You are re-traumatizing generations of individuals who are affected by these. Because if this was our family, we've got to put ourselves in our shoes sometimes. If that was the suspect of someone who hurt someone in my life, would I want to see that on a shirt or glorified? No. And I stand on that. You can fight me on that one, because that is the hill I will die on. Glorifying serial killers, big ick. Ugh. I think I need like a rating system for like how much I am icked out, like a gag system. No, I'm not doing that. But out of anything on my list, that's the one that gets me. And we're not even through the list yet. I'm putting these all out of order to just kind of keep you guys on a little bit of a roller coaster. You feel me? Next one. This is very specific, so I'm going to read it out. The moment where someone says that they're studying forensics and the response is, so you cut bodies? God. When people come by the facility and they see forensics, they automatically want to ask, is there a body in the car? Do you have bodies at your facility? First of all, I don't like the word bodies. They are deceased. They are decedents. I had the privilege of working at funeral homes during college. We don't call them dead people. We don't call them bodies. We might do it in gallows humor. We might do it in plain talk amongst peers. But when I'm speaking to other people that do not understand what I do, my first correction is decedents. And no, that is not our role. Again, a lot of it's miseducation. And I'm so happy when people bring this up because, boom, I can educate you. I could tell you why CSIs don't have bodies, but who does? And what we call them, and how we regard the deceased, and how we respect the dead, and how we investigate their deaths. Anytime I've come up with these icks, and I've seen them in real life, they've happened to me, I'm sure they've happened to you. Sometimes it's just best to ignore them. If I'm being honest, okay, cool, no, we don't have bodies, and walk away. But when you have someone that is not being malicious, and they're genuinely wanting to learn, hey, you know what? They're not called bodies. They're deceased individuals. But you know who does have deceased individuals? The medical examiner's office. You should look into them. You should look in, there's jobs. We're all needing staffing. It's hard in these types of fields. I'd rather promote and use the opportunity to teach than not at all. So, no, we don't have bodies in our facility. And please don't call them bodies. Next ick is 30-minute full cases from start to finish. So you get the scene, you get the analysis, you get the, oh, we got the fingerprint off the cell phone picture that you sent me. Yeah, I totally just pinpointed all the minutia. They don't even call them minutia. Yeah, we got it. Interviewing, suspect confesses, trial, guilty, in 30 minutes. And it comes to a point where you would hope that people understand that that's not the reality of what we do, but unfortunately it is. That's why the CSI effect is a thing. You come across these instances where they're quickly just going through, but that's what it is. It's TV, it's drama. But that doesn't mean it doesn't ache me out a little bit. I'd rather see a 9-episode long investigation. Start me with the scene. Leave me hooked. Can someone make that? Can we get a CSI show that is start to finish of a case over months, over episodes? Start me with the scene and leave me with a hook. Then tell me there's a chain of custody issue in the 2nd episode and they have to figure out what happened. 3rd episode, tell me they fixed that chain of custody issue and they're waiting for analysis. And there's more information coming out. Show me the personnel in between. Show me their day-to-day in episode 4 and 5. Show me what the detectives are doing. Show me how they get the information, get that latent ident, get that DNA hit after months to years. Show me it, and show me trial. You know how easy you could stretch that? Listen, if you're going to take that idea, please credit me, and please put me in the show, or at least have me as an editor. Please. But it's just frustrating to see, but there's nothing we can do about it. I can only complain about so much. We know it's drama. They have to hook you. And you have to fall in love with these characters. If you don't care about these characters, how are you ever going to keep watching the next 21 seasons of this crime show? Right? You have to feel connected and into these characters, and they have to show you their personal lives and build a rapport with you. So I wouldn't necessarily say this is at the top of my ick list because it's just media. And I understand the differences, and if I don't like it, then I'm just not going to watch it. But it can be an ick, especially when people take that for what it is at face value and say, oh, well, they did it in the shows in 5 minutes. Yeah, that's the shows. It takes me like an hour to search my scene and figure out how I'm going to label the bullet holes before I even take my pictures. You think I'm going to figure out the case in 30 minutes? You're dead wrong. Not me. So, next one. This is, again, these are all suggested. When people think we can enhance videos and make grainy videos clear. Now, my video people, video analysts, video forensics, digital forensics, y'all are miracle workers. The methods that you use to extract data and to do actual enhancements in real time is amazing. But I've never seen a clear as face picture unless it's like a high quality camera or a Tesla camera. If you know, you know. If there's a Tesla near on your scene, they got the video for you. It's worked for me. So when you have a video that is blurry, that is not of good quality, my video people do an amazing job, and I give you all the credit in the world because you see just as much as we do, if not more, right? But there's no way some videos can even be salvageable. You're looking at pixels. It is difficult to enhance. Now, can you bring out colors and maybe change the saturation to see if you see details? Maybe if you're trying to look and you might see an outline of a tattoo. Are they wearing shorts compared to jeans? Tank top versus shirt? A dress? You can see details, but there's no way to know for sure if the video is grainy. And most videos that we have of scenes and instances, 90% of the time, are super, super grainy. When we're looking at videos, it is pretty expected that you're not going to get the perfect video. And sometimes you're not going to even get the right angle. So to see enhancements of blowing up the face by 5, by 20, by 30 times, I don't even think a freaking microscope can do that. How are you doing that? Again, it's all media. Same way that they're taking a really distorted, not properly placed print, and they're like, yep, found our suspect. First of all, do you know what ASV is? Second of all, you can't just do that. You need to actually look at the print. And same thing with the video. You gotta look at the video. You can't tell me that you can see the angle of the suspect's nose in pixels. Now I'm an artist. I've dealt with pixel work. You still can't do it. So to say you have video enhancements to that caliber, not true. Big ick. Next, this is a huge ick for my DNA people. Fast test results. This goes into latent print analysis too. Oh, I got the DNA back. Honey, you didn't even do a phenolphthalein test and you're trying to tell me that you know it's the suspect? GTFO. Absolutely not. You cannot tell me that that's that suspect's DNA. You can't even tell me if it's blood. Oh, is that the individual semen? Did you do a semen presumptive and send it to the lab first? Absolutely not. That is what draws the line. But again, devil's advocate, it's just media. They want to just get the story going. They don't want to show the lab techs looking through microscope slides, and they don't want to show the lab techs quantifying that DNA. I think it would be pretty cool, but most don't see it as cool, nor do they see it as entertaining, so they're going to skip it. People are taking pictures of fingerprints and identifying individuals off of those photos. Is it in RAW? Is it on a 1-to-1 with scale? Don't tell me you're not doing the proper steps. And I am just one of those annoying people that when we sit and watch true crime media, that is exactly what I'm saying. I will be right next to my husband and say, that's not right. Why are they doing that? We don't do it like that. Did they even verify that result? How are you having a sound suspect with a search warrant? Wait, matter of fact, where is your search warrant? And I am usually hushed and shushed because it is taking the fun out of the show. I'm sorry, I'm that person. I can't deal with it. Big ick. Big ick. I know my LPs are cringing right now. I get you guys. My DNA people, I get it. Someone mentioned about APHIS hits. That kind of just goes into their databases. Half the times they're not even using APHIS. They're using some NCIS APHIS CSI show technology. Seeing them pick minutia. Boop, 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 boop. Yeah, that's not how this works. If that was the case, then I'm pretty sure most latent print units wouldn't have a backlog, right? But no, we need our eyeballs. My LPEs, your eyeballs. That's the moneymaker right there. You need your eyeballs. And these shows just rely on technology. I would not be surprised if they show AI doing ASV to verify results. Let's see how good that goes. Ugh, no, no thank you. Keep it traditional. It's okay to use technology. I know many latent print examiners that utilize Photoshop, utilize systems like Foray, utilize digital means, digitizing those prints. Absolutely. Save your eyeballs, use the technology to your advantage. But by God, we're not going in and putting it through some random databases and it's giving you these automatic, surefire results. Again, ASV, has anyone heard of her? Apparently not. Next. And the last topic, I guess this is a repeat, is glorifying the suspects over the victims. We kind of got into that. Shows you right where my mind is at and how casual of a conversation this can be on this podcast. But yeah, I just don't believe in true crime media doing that. I'm not a supporter of it. And I'm the biggest hater. Kendrick said it best. I'm the biggest hater. And if you want me to hate on something, I'm a lover. I love loving things and finding devil's advocate. Don't glorify the killers over the victims. I will be your biggest hater in a heartbeat. With a smile. And a nice southern, oh, sweetheart. If you get my drift. So, we're moving into CSI Icks. Hold on to your seatbelts, y'all. It's going to get ugly. These are obvious. Some of them are call-outs. Not for me. I got my list right here. But we're going to talk about it. CSI Icks. Icks that we do as professionals. Again, not just for CSIs, but for forensic personnel, right? Somebody said for the first suggestion, decom smell is better than formaldehyde. Absolutely agree. Coming from a funeral home background, smelling formaldehyde, that's my kryptonite. It's smelling formaldehyde on an individual who is actively decomposing, because, newsflash, if you're an avid just listener and you're not in forensics, the embalming processes can only last so long on an individual. You will decompose. I am so sorry to break this to you now. Please call a loved one. Phone a friend. I hate to give you this image. We all decompose. We will become bones, one with the earth, one way or the other. So, embalming is just a great preservation for if you're having viewings, if you're, needing the preservation for a longer period of time, if family's coming into town. Embalming will not keep you young forever. And smelling a 6-month-old case, not a 6-month-old child, but an individual that was sitting for 6 months, and they were waiting for acceptance into a cemetery. I'm not going to get into details about it, but there are cemeteries, if you know, that have wait list. And they were waiting for entry into that cemetery. It takes a bit to get in, and that smell was absolutely horrible. And that smell, I think, is what burned most of my olfactory nerves up, and I can smell decomp like a champ. Because it doesn't get worse in the mix of formaldehyde and decomp. That is a lesser evil that not many forensic personnel have to deal with. Be grateful. For my individuals in the funeral and decedent transport, I should say, you get it. The girls who get it, get it. The girls who don't. Next, this is one. This is an ick for me. Bragging on cool calls, but masking the annoying work in between. Now, I wouldn't call the work in between annoying. It can get tedious. It may not be exciting or career building, but nothing is worse than having someone gas up their calls. Look at me, look at what I did. Congratulations, you did something within your job title. You did something that we're supposed to be doing. No one is better than the other. You are at the mercy of the luck of the draw when it comes to your calls. You really are. And the elaboration on this in this topic from someone else, I got someone else's input, so this is not directly mine. It's just you're on shift and that call came in. It's okay to talk about some cool things, share, but when you're using that call and like, look at me, but you don't tell people or share, like, oh, I had firearms processing all day. Oh, I had evidence that I processed today from a robbery. it's fun to get cool calls, but ultimately, that's not all of our job. And I think that's what many believe is the root of our job. I always get asked, how many homicides have you worked? Not as much as you think. I get asked all the time, do you work with decedents every day? No, I don't. I have not had anything with a decedent in a while. It's just not a common thing that CSIs come across every single day. Not every case is a high profile case, nor is it something that will ever make the media news, but it's still crime. Crime is crime. So taking and bragging on your cool calls, I get it. I've done it. You know what? I'm going to say it. I've done it. But you don't feel cool after. And a lot of times, most of the people are like, okay, you were on shift, you got called in, and you took a cool call. I would love that. One of the things that I learned very on in my training, I was told by one of my trainers, is that your call will come. Your cool calls will come when they come. Don't wish them. Don't say the Q word. And don't be envious of other people getting said calls. Because it's not something you're dealing with right now. You'll get that call. And most of those cool calls are long, exhausting, difficult to deal with. Sometimes it's better that they're not on our plate. Next ick is uniforms. Hot, all black, nasty. I'm a Florida girl. Was not born and raised here, but I've accepted my status as a Florida woman, right? It's hot. It was April and we were hitting 90 degrees with full humidity. It's disgusting. Florida CSIs, we are built different. Texas CSIs, y'all are built different too, because that heat out there, crazy. Anyone in the South, anyone dealing in the heat is crazy. And especially the heat that we're been having right now, absolutely insane. So when we're in all black, when we have an individual that's outstanding, we have to have a vest on, full ballistic vest. You're picking up evidence. You have your camera slung over your shoulder. You have a bunch of things in your pockets, tape, gloves. Your first pair of gloves, because I double glove in the heat, your first pair of gloves are full of sweat. And if you dare take those off, you got sweat pooling out everywhere. So I have a second layer of gloves, and that's also making my hands sweaty. My hair is pulled back. I look like the nanny. I look disgusting. I feel disgusting. I am disgusting. That is the reality of what we do, especially when it comes to those really extreme outdoor scenes. I sweat a lot. I'm gross. My body just kicks it right out of me. So I am grateful for the black uniforms because you don't see me sweat. You know how they say never let them see you sweat? Oh, you're not going to see me sweating. I am. But I am a chronic, my face turns red the moment I go outside with humidity. So I look like a cherry tomato. And it is embarrassing. But I do like that you can't see me sweat and you can't see through my pants. Anything light colored, I just sweat right through. So to CSIs that have to wear light colored, like white tops, gray tops, God bless you. Like, do you have underpadding to catch the sweat? Because that's probably what I would do, because I would be so embarrassed to be sweating and you would see it. But at the expense that you're in all black in the middle of the summer and you're just absorbing all of that heat, and it sucks. It sucks. It makes a simple burglary scene feel like forever. I think I take longer on scenes in the summer solely because I am just trying to practice a little bit of self-care. Very hard to do in crime scene. Just a little bit of self-care, take some water breaks and sit down, get my energy back so I'm not missing anything, so I'm not dealing with the exhaustion and fatigue. Last summer, I had an instance where working a very long case and I almost passed out. I had my vest on. It was probably 100 degrees out and I thoroughly almost passed out. It was probably one of the hardest scenes that I had to deal with just because of the heat, to the point where they had to mandate us to take our vest off because I was just going in and out of consciousness at that point. I was surprised I did not go to the ER. Pulled through in the name of forensics, but definitely not something you want to be doing. So, disclaimer, if you're in the summer heat and you're working scenes, don't be me and keep working the scene when you feel like you're not well. It's not going to go well, and you're going to leave a lot of burden on your team, because that's what ended up happening. I had to take such a long break that I had to have other people kind of help come in and help clear that scene for me. Don't be me. Take care of yourself. Take a lot of breaks. Give it an extra 30 minutes on scene if you have to. At least go in, get some AC, get some liquid IV, get your Stanley out, and get some water in. That's what I do, at least. So, next one, major ick. No PPE at scenes. What are y'all doing? Lockhart's exchange principle? Every contact leaves a trace? So you want to leave a trace? I am side-eyeing you right now. Put those gloves on. Put your hair up. Put the booties on. I will say, in my younger years, I didn't care because I just wanted to look okay. I wanted to look presentable on scene. You know, if you know the scene's going to be quick and you're like, oh, I'm not worried about DNA. You're not worried about DNA right now. But when that death becomes suspicious and now DNA is on the forefront and you didn't wear a hairnet, you didn't put your gloves on when you walked in the scene, you didn't think about cross-contamination, I would hope that we're not touching things without gloves. I just feel like other people's homes are gross. I don't touch, even if I'm at a friend's house, I don't touch anyone's stuff. So why would I go in a complete stranger's house without gloves and touch things? Even if I'm searching. Barehanded? Never could be me. Please wear your PPE. That is such an ick. That is so bad. And the fact that that came up multiple times in many of the questions and answers that I got for this topic kind of concerns me. What are we doing? I thought we were better than this. Here's another one. Minimal crime scene photos. Minimal photos on scene. Oh my god. Cardinal Rules. Overall mid-range close-up. Do I have to go into a lecture? Take the photos. We're not in film anymore. And before everyone gets at me, you don't know what the time before film is. I don't. I'm 26. But I did have prior use of film when I was in photography classes. I understand that it can be complex. I'd rather say I had 300 photos than 12. And I've heard extreme cases of major crimes shot with a minimum of 30 photos. A room alone, overall, from corner to corner, doing your overalls, 3, 6, 9, 12. In the room I'm in alone. And what about your evidence? What about your markers? What about the rest of the rooms in the house? What about the exterior? Did you go around the back? Did you do all 4 corners of the car? Did you do the corners and make it 8 photo sets instead of 4 if you have a vehicle from an accident? There are methodologies and ways, not because they're trying to make our job harder, because they work. Because you do not know the view of the victims or the suspects. Because we're not the one interviewing. So take the photos. Take everything. Assume nothing. Get every view. Because the view that you don't photograph is the view they need in court. There are cases where I'm a thorough photographer and I still didn't get the view that they wanted for court. And nothing is more embarrassing than them looking at me saying, I wanted this view. And I had a photo of the view half and another photo going to the next part. There's no flow. That is detrimental. And I can't say that it hasn't happened to me because it happens. I'm human. Things happen. You might not know the pertinence right away, right? But that's not our job to know. So take the damn photo. Go crazy. I mean, don't take 1,000 photos of a small house, but do your due diligence. Get the photo. I'd rather take more photos now and have more to look back on. Take the transitionary shots. It's annoying, but at least I know where you're going. When you go and cut through overall mid-range close-up and go from overall to close-up, I don't know where the heck you are. Get more photos. It's digital. You have metadata. We have big memory cards. Get the photos. I promise you that 1 second snap is not going to take any more than a second off your life. It's not going to hurt you. Get the photo. As someone who is very into forensic photography, as someone who's a trainer, nothing grinds my gears more than improper photo taking. I've had my bad photo days. I've had my days where I didn't photograph as much as I needed to. But let me tell you, if I work a simple death investigation, you're going to get at least 100 photos. Even if it's just a decedent laying in a field. I'm going to show you the whole field. I'm going to show you the roadway. I'm going to show you the walk-up. Full sides of the decedent. Side profiles. Sectioning. Cutting them all. Cutting the sections. Doing that proper photo sequence. When the ME comes, backside shots. What was in their pockets. That counts up to sometimes over 100 photos for something as simple as a decedent laying in a field. Use your photography knowledge wisely. Get it done right. Because you only got one shot. Why not take one more photo? So, another ick is rushing scenes. Oh, I could elaborate on that all day. Nothing is worse than trying to do your best job, and you have a partner, you have people. Are you done yet? How much more you got? You're just on photos? Oh, I didn't know that you needed to do all that processing. Yeah, we need to hurry this up. I only have one shot, and I have to explain why I cut corners because you're rushing me, and I don't want to do that. I don't. Now, understandably, if you're moving like a slow snail, yeah, you might have to pick it up a little bit. But nothing is worse than being rushed on scenes. However, when you are rushing on scene, when you have the time because you don't want to be out, when you're rushing on scene because you don't want to do this scene, when you have the time, when no one's bothering you, that is a luxury. When nobody's bothering you on scene, when you don't have your partner like, all right, I'm hungry, I want to go get food, you're going to have to wait. I'm getting the scene done. But if you are by yourself, you have the luxury of time. Because let's be real. If it's in the middle of a major roadway, you're on a time crunch, honey. Get those photos in, get the evidence out of the way, let's go. Some things have pertinence and they just need to be done fast. And with proper flow and organization, you can get them done fast. So, when you have the luxury of time, why are we rushing? Why are you on shift if you're not going to take this seriously and give it your all each scene? Why are you on shift if you don't want to do the work? Don't rush. There's so many things that are in our mental toolboxes, and you'd be surprised what sitting back for 5 seconds does. You'll see something you didn't see before. You'll be able to do a second search and find more evidence. You'll be able to do a second search and see surfaces you can do advanced processing on. The possibilities are endless. Take a second, step back and walk away if you feel overwhelmed, but don't rush that scene. We all want to get home. We all want to go eat. You only got one shot. You have to, in that moment, pick the value of that scene. Maybe that doesn't sound like much self-care, but if I'm not well, then I'm going to call in for somebody to step in and replace me. But if I am right in the mind, right in the soul, right in my stomach, and I don't want to be doing that scene, there's a problem. It's a little bit more rooted in yourself than that scene itself. Don't rush scenes. Don't do that to yourself and don't do that to the people you're serving. It's not fair. It's not right for them. And it's just not a good look on you. Don't have your career be ruined because you wanted to get home sooner. So long as you're safely working on scene, you're working in safe parameters, you're not exhausted or a liability, don't rush. Give it a chance, think through, and see where you can go from there. So, next tick is, this is suggested. This one's a little spicy. Glorifying cases for true crime interests and not for good. This is not a fun line of work. So, I am fortunate that our community on Instagram and forensic stuff, we don't dive into glorifying our cases. We don't want to be the faces of these documentaries. Would it be nice to have the credit? Every CSI would be lying if you don't want credit. We work really hard. But the issue here is, okay, I worked this case. Who do I tell? And your answer should be very limited, if not anybody. These cases are very sacred. And I have not seen it and I hope I never do, of a CSI going on and on about a case that they've worked, and they're glorifying it. They're using the details to make themselves look cooler, better. Now, we do it amongst our friend groups. I've seen CSIs do that. I'd be guilty to say that I wasn't somebody who was like, oh, I'm a crime scene investigator. I work with death. My baby years, I did that. And I quickly snapped out of it. How inconsiderate. How weird. People don't want to hear about death, Lex. Get over yourself. Just tell them you're in law. Sometimes it's easier that way. It's not worth it. It's not worth using your cases as bragging points and thinking that that's what's going to make people like you. Because a lot of the times people just think we're weird. And that's okay. The secondary part of that is saying that this is not a fun line of work. I can agree to disagree with that. I enjoy what I do. I agree to the aspect of this work can be draining, be hard on your health, hard on everything that you stand for. Your beliefs, what you know, your body, your mind. But I do enjoy what I do. I'm just crazy like that. I love doing crime scene work. And it's fun to me, but it's not fun all the time. And that's where I think kind of that secondary aspect of this ick comes from, is that it's not as fun as people make it seem. And I can agree with that. When people are glorifying, oh, look at me, I had a triple homicide and I worked 16 hours. Does that really sound fun? It doesn't. That's where I think that kind of ick is coming from, and I can agree. I can look at you and say, honey, you need a hot shower and a therapist, because that ain't right. I will say that my husband is probably the most humbling person, because he reminds me every day that I'm not as cool as I think I am, and the type of things that I see, do, smell, experience, it's not the norm. And I can come in and be like, I had a long day in the sun, I was tired, there was 50 casings, and he's like, have you called your therapist? You probably should call your therapist. And I agree. So it doesn't necessarily mean that our job sucks or it's just not great, but it's not fun all the time. And to use your cases to make yourself look cooler, to get an edge because of the work that we do, that's not why we do it. Always think of the people you're affecting when you do things like that. So, next ick is when someone misses evidence. That goes into not rushing. Don't rush. Don't miss evidence. But I can tell you from experience that things happen. And we're human. We're not robots, guys. It happens. You can look all you want on your hands and knees, and it's right in front of your face. Because your mind is going, and you do photos, process, this, that, talk to the detective, go over here. I need to do lay and print processing. Oh no, do I need SPR? Maybe I need SPR. That item's wet. Oh, I have tape. I need to collect the tape. I have to make sure it doesn't stick to the box that it's transporting it. That is like our minds. You're doing this. Sometimes you just need a hand. When you miss evidence, you need help. I'm not saying mental help. I'm saying you need a second eye. I always try to get a patrol. I try to get the detective. If I'm lucky, I'll get another CSI to come out and just verify that I'm not missing anything. Especially when I'm not confident. If I feel like I'm missing something, if I feel like I'm exhausted, like for these summer scenes in the heat, I'll get somebody out there. Hey, when we're about to go meet to grab food, can you come out here and make sure I didn't miss anything? Hey, you got a second? I'll call a supervisor. I'm not afraid, because I'm more afraid of missing evidence and leaving the scene than I am of ridicule from my peers about wanting a second eye. And my peers don't ridicule me for wanting a second eye. They get it. Nothing is worse than being tired and you're like, I just want to go home. But 3 shots were fired and I only have 2 casings. Somebody help me find this 3rd casing. I know it's here in this high brush that I metal detected 3 times. It's okay to need help. It's not okay to miss evidence and know you did. Phone a friend. Check your resources. But it happens. Just have enough integrity to put in that in your report to testify that it happened. It may hurt. It might not help the case. but you have integrity and you're not lying and covering it up. Nothing is worse than being caught in a lie. Don't do it. So, next ick is blood splatter. Yo! What do we say? Say it in unison. It is spatter, not splatter. Splatter? Now, alright. Hear me out. I'm not justifying it, right? But as someone who's in art, I've heard of paint splats. The paint splat. It's like a sound effect. So when people say blood splatter, I can't. Ick. Top ick on my list is this, because it just makes me absolutely cringe. I can understand where that roots from. However, there's enough education and literature out there for you to know it's not splatter. Don't say splatter. My husband will say it to make me mad, and I just don't even entertain it anymore. It's just something, it's just a common nuance that happens, and we try to be all grammarly about it, and I get it, but I can't stand where there's official literature on forensics and true crime and splatter is used. Next, I turn it off, I put it away, I don't want to see it anymore. Please don't call it splatter. Every time you say splatter, a CSI cries, and we don't have many tears in us. We cry. A forensic professional's crying. My BPA people, they're sobbing. I'm sure people are sobbing right now of me saying splatter, 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 splatter. Someone is crying. And for you to make someone in forensics cry, you're an evil person. Don't say splatter. I'm joking, but it's just a big ick of mine. One of the last ones is about prep time. So, you get a case and you're about to process in lab, and people don't realize the amount of prep time we do in between. The processing is 2 seconds. Give me my swabs. I'll go in all day. Give me my latent print processing. Now that could take a little bit. You super glue it. You go through powder. Powder's not working. Dye steam. Now I gotta take photos. That could take time. What about the prep in between? Changing your paper out, to, changing gloves, putting your mask on, sterilizing your surfaces. That takes a lot of time. And an ick, and this is representative of what was suggested, is when people don't take enough time to prep. And when people rush packaging. Improper packaging. We know it goes in paper, but oh my God, could you just put it in a box? Oh my God, why is that bag bursting? Just put it in a bigger bag. Take your time. This goes back to not rushing. Don't rush. Take your time. Prep your area. Prep now, or else you're going to be prepping to answer it in court. It is not fun. Don't do that to yourself. And one of the last things on this list about icks, someone had mentioned about detectives not being proper on scenes when it comes to PPE and understanding what we do. I have something to say about that. I don't fault them because they don't know. This is why this podcast exists. If you're someone who's sworn listening to this, thank you, by the way. Hi, how are you? You don't know what you don't know. And if we can just take some time to educate our detectives and our sworn personnel, it makes such a difference. Put the egos away and help them, show them. Now, if they keep not listening to that and they're going through scenes, just tell them they're ruining their case. They want the recognition, put the gloves on at least. Or I've had this where they're going in without gloves and I'm like, okay, let me roll your elimination prints. What do you mean? Because you're touching things in this scene and now I have to rule you out. I don't care if your fingerprints are in the database, I have to rule you out. If you're not going to wear booties in my scene, come here, I got to ink your boots. I got to get a buckle swab. You have to remind them the importance of why these things are there. Are they comfortable? No. Is it fun to wear a tie back on a hot scene? No. But this is why we're doing it. So I understand where people are coming from when they're saying, they have an ick about how certain people are on scene. I'm very blessed that any sworn individual that I work with, a lot of times it's just a quick correction education and they're on it and they're like, I'm sorry, I didn't realize, I just wanted to get through, I just want to get done. Educate them. I put that on the lower part of my ranking for icks. It's not really a big ick for me. I'm very fortunate it doesn't bother me as much. I don't come across it, so I don't see it as a big issue. In conclusion, we talked about a lot, and I didn't put any of it in order for a reason. I didn't want you guys to have this big crescendo. I wanted it to be up and down, because that in itself is representative of what we do. You come across these things and you just have to figure out what's going to bother you more. And I'm more bothered about cross-contamination and rushing than I am about someone who is not... I'm more bothered about cross-contamination rushing than the decom smell, right? Or the formaldehyde smell. I'm more bothered about serial killers being glorified than I am that the show puts a case in 30 minutes, right? This is what bothers me. And this episode is a compilation of all these different icks, and maybe your icks are different. Let me know if you have different icks that you're like, no, that's a big ick of mine, because we're all different. But at the end of the day, you have to pick your battles. And some icks, they're icks, but there's nothing you can do about it. And as crazy as this kind of all unfolds, hopefully you take some of my suggestions, my devil advocate plays, and you take some of my icks very seriously. I stand by my big icks. I do. Especially about glorifying serial killers. That is something you'll never see me do. So, that is the end of episode 1. I hope I have you guys in a little bit of state of whiplash. It was a very crazy topic to start with, and I'm all about ruffling some feathers and getting the conversation started. But at the end of the day, love thy neighbor, take care of yourself, take care of those around you, and I'll see you in the next one. Tales of a Middle Responder. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I'll see you very soon.